The trajectory of ambition. Wernher von Braun. The stars, a glittering dust across the inky canvas of the night sky, held a magnetic pull for the young Wernher von Braun. Born in 1912 into a Prussian aristocratic family in Wörsitz, Germany, his childhood was steeped in the promise of the future. He was a brilliant, precocious child, gifted with an insatiable curiosity and an innate understanding of physics and engineering. His mother, herself a forward-thinking woman, gifted him a telescope at an early age. Cementing his fascination with the cosmos, he devoured science fiction, dreamed of rockets soaring beyond Earth's atmosphere, and became a fervent disciple of Hermann Oberth, the father of modern rocketry. His early experiments were modest, yet audacious for their time. At university, while ostensibly studying mechanical engineering, his true passion lay in the clandestine workshops where he and a small group of enthusiasts, the Vereine Raumschiffahrts Society for Space Travel, tinkered with liquid-fueled rocket engines. The promise of space travel burned brightly within him, an almost spiritual quest. He saw rockets not merely as machines, but as vessels of humanity's boundless ambition, a key to unlocking the universe. But Germany in the 1930s was a nation in turmoil, a crucible of extremist ideologies. The nascent Nazi regime, with its chilling rhetoric of national resurgence and military dominance, quickly recognized the strategic potential of von Braun's revolutionary work. His dreams of exploring the heavens soon collided with the grim realities of terrestrial power. The Faustian bargain was struck: generous funding, state-of-the-art facilities, and virtually limitless resources in exchange for directing his genius towards weaponry. Peenemünde, a desolate, windswept peninsula on the Baltic coast, became his laboratory. Under his leadership, and with the backing of the Wehrmacht, the Vita Vergeltungswaffe II, or Retribution Weapon II, rapidly took shape. It was a marvel of engineering, a supersonic ballistic missile, the first man-made object to achieve suborbital spaceflight. Von Braun, then a young man in his late 20s and early 30s, was at the apex of his technical powers, driven by a relentless pursuit of perfection. He poured his every waking hour into solving the myriad complex problems of rocketry, envisioning each successful test as a step closer to the stars. Yet, the shadow of its purpose loomed large. The Vita was not a scientific instrument, it was a terror weapon. From 1944 onwards, these magnificent machines, offspring of a singular vision, rained down on London and other allied cities. Their arrival was silent, supersonic, offering no warning until the devastating explosion. They were instruments of indiscriminate death, sowing fear and destruction, a brutal testament to the dark side of technological progress. For von Braun, the line between scientific ambition and military necessity blurred, then dissolved entirely. He often rationalized his work by stating that his ultimate goal remained space, and that military funding was merely the means to that end. However, a far more chilling echo resonated from the subterranean depths of Mitterwalk, the vast underground factory carved into the Harz Mountains. Here, thousands of concentration camp prisoners, slave laborers, starved, brutalized, and worked to death toiled in inhumane conditions to assemble the Vita South. While von Braun himself denied direct involvement in the day-to-day management of the camps, his frequent presence at the site, his command position, and his unwavering focus on production speed leave an indelible stain on his legacy. The cost of his rocket dream, in human lives and suffering, was immeasurable. Did the screams of the dying ever truly recede from his dreams? As the rocket soared into the heavens, the historical record offers no easy answer, only enduring questions. As the Third Reich crumbled in 1945, von Braun, keenly aware of the strategic value of his team and their knowledge, made a calculated decision. He orchestrated the surrender of himself and over 100 of his top scientists and engineers to advancing American forces in Bavaria, famously stating, "My rockets worked perfectly, except for landing on the wrong planet." This began Operation Paperclip, a covert program to exfiltrate German scientists to America. preventing their capture by the Soviets and harnessing their expertise for American Cold War objectives. Arriving in the United States, von Braun and his team were initially met with suspicion, even hostility. Here was the man who had directed the weapons that had terrorized Britain and killed thousands, now being welcomed by the victors. It was a moral paradox, a pragmatic devil's bargain in the burgeoning Cold War. He spent years in relative obscurity, working for the US Army at Fort Bliss, Texas, and later at the Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama. The work was familiar, developing ballistic missiles, but the context was different. He learned English, adopted American customs, and meticulously rebuilt his reputation, transitioning from enemy combatant to vital national asset. The turning point came with the chilling beep of Sputnik in October 1957, the Soviet Union's successful launch of the first artificial satellite sent shockwaves through America, igniting the space race. Suddenly, von Braun's long-held vision of spaceflight, once dismissed as fanciful, became a matter of national security and prestige. His team's Jupiter seed rocket, which had been ready to launch an American satellite months earlier but was held back by inter-service rivalries, finally sent Explorer 1 into orbit just months after Sputnik. This achievement catapulted von Braun into the national spotlight. His German accent and enthusiastic, almost evangelical, advocacy for space exploration captivated the American public. He became a symbol of American ingenuity, a testament to the nation's capacity to absorb talent, even from its former enemies. With the creation of NASA in 1958, von Braun was appointed director of the Marshall Space Flight Center, a position he would hold for the next decade. Under his leadership, and with President Kennedy's bold challenge to land a man on the moon by the end of the decade, von Braun embarked on the greatest endeavor of his life, the Apollo program. His crowning achievement was the design and development of the Saturn V rocket, a colossal, multi-stage launch vehicle that remains one of the most powerful machines ever built. It was the vehicle that would carry American astronauts to the moon, a realization of the dreams he had harbored since childhood. On July 16, 1969, as the Saturn V majestically lifted off from Cape Canaveral, carrying Apollo 11 towards its lunar destiny, Wernher von Braun stood among the spectators, tears streaming down his face. His dream, once a childhood fantasy, then a weapon of terror, finally found its apotheosis in humanity's greatest peaceful exploration. Wernher von Braun spent his final years advocating for the future of space exploration, championing the concept of a permanent space station and human missions to Mars. He retired from NASA in 1972 and passed away in 1977. The trajectory of Wernher von Braun's life remains a testament to human ambition, genius, and its profound, often terrifying, moral cost. He was a visionary who stretched the boundaries of what was technologically possible, driven by an unyielding desire to reach the stars. Yet, his path was inextricably linked to the horrors of war and the atrocities of the Nazi regime. He built the rockets that brought death and destruction to Britain, and then the rockets that carried humanity to the moon. The paradox of his life, the brilliance and the brutality, the future he envisioned and the past he lived, ensures that his legacy will forever be debated. A complex figure forever etched into the annals of both engineering triumph and ethical compromise. The stars, still glittering, still held not just the promise of his boyhood dreams, but the indelible echoes of the path he had forged, a path paved with both brilliance and ashes. The architect of ascent, Wernher von Braun. A life etched in fire and starlight. Wernher von Braun. The name conjures images of towering rockets, lunar landscapes, and the boundless expanse of space. But behind the iconic silhouette of the engineer, the man who propelled humanity towards the stars, lies a complex, often contradictory figure, whose life story is a stark reminder that progress rarely comes without a moral cost. He was a dreamer, an innovator, a brilliant mind seduced by the allure of power, and ultimately, a pivotal architect of both destruction and discovery. Born into privilege in pre-World War I Germany, Von Braun's early years were marked by a keen intellect and an unyielding curiosity. The night sky was his obsession, the stars his compass. He consumed science fiction voraciously, fueled by the visionary writings of Jules Verne and H.G. Wells. Dreaming of the day when humanity would break free from Earth's gravity and explore the cosmos. A pivotal moment was receiving a telescope from his mother, a gift that solidified his destiny. He became a disciple of Hermann Oberth, the pioneering theorist of space travel, and joined the fledgling Verein für Raumschifffahrt, Society for Space Travel, a group of like-minded enthusiasts who dared to envision a future among the stars. His early experiments were driven by passion and ingenuity, built on shoestring budgets and fueled by the sheer audacity of youth. He mastered the intricacies of liquid-fueled rocket engines, learning through trial and error, often with spectacular, if not always successful, results. These early endeavors, though humble, laid the groundwork for the revolutionary technologies that would later define his career. The rise of the Nazi Party in the 1930s fundamentally altered the trajectory of von Braun's life. The regime, with its promise of national resurgence and technological advancement, recognized the strategic potential of rocketry. Von Braun, initially reluctant, was persuaded to join the Nazi Party and later the SS, a decision that would forever stain his legacy. The Fallschirm bargain was struck, in exchange for access to vast resources, state-of-the-art facilities, and the freedom to pursue his research. He would dedicate his expertise to developing weapons of war. Peenemünde, a remote military research facility on the Baltic coast, became his kingdom. Here, under his direction, the V2 rocket was born. It was a technological marvel, a supersonic ballistic missile that represented a quantum leap in propulsion and guidance systems. The V2 was the first man-made object to cross the boundary of space, a testament to von Braun's genius and the dedication of his team. But its purpose was far from celestial. It was a weapon of terror, designed to inflict devastation on Allied cities. From 1944 onwards, the V2 South rained down on London, Antwerp, and other targets, their arrival heralded only by the deafening explosion that followed. Thousands of civilians were killed, and countless more were traumatized, while von Braun maintained that his ultimate goal was space exploration, and that military funding was merely a means to that end. The undeniable reality was that his rockets were instruments of death and destruction. The ethical compromises deepened with the construction of Mittelwerk, a vast underground factory complex, where concentration camp prisoners were forced to assemble the V2 South under horrific conditions. The stories of starvation, brutality, and death at Mittelwerk are chilling, a stark reminder of the human cost of technological advancement pursued without moral restraint. While von Braun claimed ignorance of the worst abuses, his position of authority and his relentless focus on production quotas suggest a willful blindness, a willingness to prioritize his scientific ambitions over the lives and dignity of the enslaved laborers. He was, at the very least, complicit in the system that perpetuated their suffering. As Germany's defeat became inevitable in 1945, von Braun made a calculated decision to surrender to the Americans. He knew that his expertise was a valuable commodity, and he sought to ensure that his team and their knowledge would be used for peaceful purposes, rather than falling into the hands of the Soviet Union. Operation Paperclip, the covert program to bring German scientists to America, offered him a new beginning, a chance to redeem himself and to fulfill his lifelong dream of space exploration. The transition to American life was not without its challenges. He faced suspicion and scrutiny, forced to defend his past and justify his involvement with the Nazi regime. He worked tirelessly to rebuild his reputation, learning English, embracing American culture, and diligently applying his expertise to developing missile technology for the US Army. He was driven by a deep-seated desire to prove his worth, to demonstrate that his genius could be used for the betterment of humanity, rather than its destruction. The launch of Sputnik in 1957 was a watershed moment, not only for the United States, but also for von Braun himself. The Soviet Union's technological triumph ignited the space race, and suddenly, von Braun's long-held vision of space exploration became a national priority. His team's Jupiter C rocket, which had been languishing due to bureaucratic inertia, was finally given the green light, and in 1958, Explorer 1 became the first American satellite to orbit the Earth. This success propelled von Braun into the national spotlight. His infectious enthusiasm for space travel, his technical brilliance, and his ability to communicate complex ideas in a simple, accessible manner made him a national hero. He became a symbol of American ingenuity, a testament to the nation's ability to overcome its past and embrace the future. With the creation of NASA in 1958, von Braun was appointed director of the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, a position he would hold for the next 12 years. He led the development of the Saturn V rocket, the colossal launch vehicle that would ultimately carry American astronauts to the moon. It was the culmination of his life's work, a testament to his technical prowess and his unwavering belief in the power of human ingenuity. The Apollo 11 mission in 1969 was von Braun's moment of triumph. As he watched the Saturn V lift off from Cape Canaveral, carrying Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins towards their lunar destiny, he was overcome with emotion. The dreams of his youth, the technological challenges he had overcome, the moral compromises he had made all converged in that singular moment of breathtaking achievement. Von Braun spent his final years advocating for continued space exploration, championing the development of a permanent space station and human missions to Mars. He retired from NASA in 1972 and died of cancer in 1977, leaving behind a complex and controversial legacy. Wernher von Braun was a brilliant engineer, a visionary leader, and a man deeply flawed by his association with a brutal regime. He was both a builder and a destroyer, a dreamer and a pragmatist. His life story is a cautionary tale about the seductive power of ambition and the ethical compromises that can be made in the pursuit of technological progress. He helped humanity reach the moon, but his path was paved with the suffering of countless others. The rockets that soared towards the stars were built on the backs of enslaved laborers. The triumphs of science were intertwined with the horrors of war. And so, the legacy of Wernher von Braun remains a subject of debate, a complex and unsettling reminder that even the most extraordinary achievements can be tainted by the choices we make along the way. The stars, still shimmering in the night sky, serve as a constant reminder of his brilliance and his transgressions, an eternal testament to the enduring complexities of the human condition. Wernher von Braun, Beyond the Rocket, a moral labyrinth. To delve deeper into the life of Wernher von Braun is to navigate a labyrinth of ambition, innovation, moral ambiguity, and historical complexity. He was not simply a rocket engineer, he was a product of his time, a figure shaped by the tumultuous events of the 20th century, and a symbol of the enduring tension between scientific progress and ethical responsibility. One of the most persistent questions surrounding von Braun's legacy is the extent of his knowledge and involvement in the atrocities committed at Mitterwalk. While he consistently denied direct participation in the abuse and exploitation of the concentration camp prisoners, evidence suggests a more complex reality. Eyewitness accounts from former prisoners paint a grim picture of the conditions at the factory, describing widespread malnutrition, disease, and brutal treatment at the hands of the SS guards. While von Braun may not have personally wielded a whip or ordered an execution, his presence at the site, his close working relationship with the SS, and his unwavering focus on meeting production targets suggest a degree of complicity, a willingness to turn a blind eye to the suffering of the prisoners in order to achieve his scientific goals. His apologists often argue that he was simply a technocrat, focused solely on the technical challenges of rocketry, and insulated from the moral implications of his work. They portray him as a pragmatic engineer, willing to make difficult compromises in order to secure the resources necessary to pursue his lifelong dream of space exploration. However, this defense ignores the fundamental principle of personal responsibility. As a leader and an influential figure within the Nazi regime, von Braun had a moral obligation to speak out against the atrocities he witnessed, or at the very least, to distance himself from the system that perpetuated them. His failure to do so, whether born of fear, ambition, or simple indifference, remains a significant stain on his character. The question of his motivations is equally complex. Was he a fervent Nazi, ideologically aligned with the regime's racist and expansionist agenda? Or was he simply an opportunist, using the Nazis as a means to an end, a way to secure the funding and resources necessary to pursue his scientific ambitions? The truth likely lies somewhere in between. While he may not have shared the regime's most virulent beliefs, he undoubtedly benefited from its patronage, and he willingly participated in its war effort. His membership in the Nazi Party and the SS, while perhaps motivated by pragmatism, nonetheless conferred a degree of legitimacy upon the regime and contributed to its overall power. After the war, von Braun embarked on a deliberate campaign to rehabilitate his image, presenting himself as a purely scientific figure, divorced from the political and moral complexities of the Nazi era. He emphasized his desire to use his expertise for peaceful purposes, to explore the vast reaches of space and to unlock the secrets of the universe. His charm, his intelligence, and his unwavering enthusiasm for space exploration helped him to win over the American public, who were eager to embrace a vision of a brighter future. However, the shadow of his past continued to haunt him. Critics pointed to his wartime activities, questioning his sincerity and accusing him of whitewashing his involvement with the Nazi regime. Despite these criticisms, von Braun persevered, becoming a leading figure in the American space program and a symbol of American ingenuity. His role in the Apollo program cemented his legacy as one of the most important engineers of the 20th century. The Saturn V rocket, which he designed and oversaw the construction of, remains a marvel of engineering, a testament to the power of human innovation. The success of the Apollo missions not only fulfilled Kennedy's promise of landing a man on the moon by the end of the decade, but also inspired a generation of scientists and engineers, fueling the technological advancements that continue to shape our world today. Yet, even in the glow of this monumental achievement, the ethical questions surrounding von Braun's past remained unresolved. The American public largely embraced him as a hero, overlooking or downplaying his wartime activities. But for many, particularly those who had suffered under the Nazi regime, his presence at the forefront of the American space program was a source of deep discomfort, a reminder of the compromises that were made in the name of Cold War pragmatism. In his later years, von Braun continued to advocate for space exploration, warning of the dangers of complacency and urging the United States to maintain its leadership in the field. He envisioned a future in which humanity would establish permanent settlements on the Moon and Mars, unlocking the vast resources of the solar system and expanding the frontiers of human civilization. Wernher von Braun's life and legacy remain a complex and multifaceted puzzle, one that defies easy answers or simplistic judgments. He was a brilliant engineer, a visionary leader, and a man deeply flawed by his association with a brutal regime. He was both a product and the shaper of his time, a figure whose story serves as a potent reminder of the enduring ethical challenges posed by technological advancement. To understand him fully requires a willingness to grapple with the uncomfortable truths of his past, to acknowledge both his extraordinary achievements and his profound moral failings. He stands as a testament to the heights humanity can achieve and the depths to which it can sink, all within the same complex and often contradictory individual. His story is not just about rockets and space, it's about humanity, ambition, and the enduring struggle to reconcile progress with conscience. Wernher von Braun. The perpetual tension of the visionary, the narrative of Wernher von Braun, is not one of simple heroism or outright villainy, but a profound exploration of human complexity, a perpetual tension between aspiration and compromise that makes him one of the most compelling and controversial figures of the 20th century. His life story, is a microcosm of the ethical dilemmas that haunt technological advancement, particularly in times of conflict. Beyond the well-documented facts of his work on the V2 and Saturn V lies the less tangible, yet equally significant, aspect of his charisma and his unyielding belief in space exploration. Von Braun was not merely a brilliant technical mind, he was an extraordinary communicator. He possessed an almost evangelical zeal for space, a knack for simplifying complex scientific concepts, and an ability to ignite the imagination of the public and politicians alike. In the post-Sputnik era, when America felt a deep sense of vulnerability, von Braun stepped into the spotlight as a charismatic advocate for a bold, ambitious future. His heavily accented English, far from being a hindrance, became part of his unique appeal, adding an exotic yet earnest quality to his public appearances. He penned articles for popular magazines, appeared on television shows, and spoke tirelessly to schoolchildren, painting vivid pictures of lunar bases, orbiting space stations, and human missions to Mars. This public persona was carefully cultivated, deliberately distancing him from his wartime past and projecting an image of a scientist dedicated solely to peaceful exploration. However, the layers of moral ambiguity surrounding von Braun are thick and pervasive. Historians have painstakingly detailed the conditions at Mitterwalk, the underground factory where Vita South were assembled by slave labor, while von Braun maintained he was unaware of the extent of the human suffering. Documents and testimonies reveal a different picture. He visited the factory frequently, sometimes several times a month. As technical director, he was responsible for ensuring production quotas were met, and he directly interacted with SS officers in charge of the camp. The willful blindness argument, often used in his defense, stretches credulity when confronted with the sheer scale of the atrocities, and his proximity to them. The fact that the V2 program, von Braun's ticket to space, cost more human lives in its production than it did in its destructive use, stands as a chilling indictment of the moral calculus at play. His decision to join the Nazi Party in 1937 and the SS in 1940 is another point of contention. While he claimed it was a pragmatic necessity to continue his rocket research, the nature of these affiliations cannot be easily dismissed. The SS, in particular, was the primary instrument of Nazi terror and genocide. His membership, even if purely nominal in his own mind, placed him within the institutional framework responsible for unspeakable crimes. This willingness to align with such a regime, even for the pursuit of scientific ambition, casts a long shadow over his ethical integrity. The paperclip transfer to the US also presented ethical challenges for the American government, which had to weigh the moral implications of employing former Nazi scientists against the perceived strategic necessity of securing their expertise before the Soviets. This pragmatic decision, driven by Cold War anxieties, allowed von Braun and his team to escape prosecution for their wartime activities, effectively granting them a new lease on life and a platform for unparalleled scientific achievement. Yet, despite the undeniable moral failings, one cannot discount von Braun's extraordinary engineering vision and leadership. The V2, despite its horrific purpose, was a technological triumph that laid the groundwork for all subsequent rocketry. The Saturn V, the undisputed king of rockets, was an engineering marvel that combined unprecedented power with incredible reliability, a testament to von Braun's ability to lead massive, complex projects and inspire diverse teams. He possessed a rare ability to translate grand visions into practical designs, to break down seemingly insurmountable challenges into solvable engineering problems. His leadership style, while demanding, was also inspiring, characterized by a deep knowledge of his subject and an infectious enthusiasm that motivated his colleagues. In the United States, von Braun's personal transformation was remarkable. He immersed himself in American culture, becoming a naturalized citizen and a passionate advocate for the American space program. He skillfully navigated the bureaucratic complexities of NASA and the US military, demonstrating a political acumen that was as sharp as his scientific intellect. He understood the power of public relations and effectively championed the cause of space exploration to a nation that was initially skeptical and later rapt with attention. The final years of his life saw him continue to push the boundaries of human aspiration. Even after retiring from NASA, he served as Vice President for Engineering and Development at Fairchild Industries. Never truly leaving the aerospace industry, he continued to write, lecture, and advocate for further space exploration, articulating visions for Mars missions and orbital colonies that remain compelling even today. His final public appearance was at a Senate committee hearing in 1977, just months before his death, where he passionately argued for continued investment in space. Wernher von Braun remains a figure of profound paradox. He was a scientist of unparalleled genius who, under the shadow of totalitarianism, helped unleash instruments of terrifying destruction. He was then instrumental in redirecting that same genius towards humanity's most ambitious and peaceful endeavor. His life is a stark reminder that the pursuit of knowledge and technological advancement is never morally neutral. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. At what cost does progress come? Can scientific ambition ever truly be separated from its ethical implications? And how do we judge individuals who operate within morally compromised systems, achieving greatness while simultaneously being complicit in unspeakable atrocities? The stars he so ardently pursued, and eventually helped humanity touch, stand as an eternal monument to his brilliance. But beneath that starlight, in the enduring questions and unresolved tensions of his biography, lies the deeper, more unsettling truth of a trajectory marked not just by ascent, but by the indelible scars of a moral labyrinth. His story continues to challenge us, forcing a perpetual examination of the human capacity for both transcendent achievement and profound ethical failing. Wernher von Braun, the architect of dreams and the weight of history. The exhaustive examination of Wernher von Braun reveals a man perpetually caught between the sublime and the tragic, a figure whose very existence embodies the double-edged sword of human ingenuity. His brilliance was undeniable, his vision almost prophetic, yet his legacy is irrevocably tethered to the darkest chapters of the 20th century. To understand von Braun is to engage with a profound and uncomfortable truth, that even the most inspiring scientific triumphs can emerge from morally corrupted origins. His early life, while privileged, offered glimpses of a driving force that transcended mere ambition. The boy who strapped firecrackers to roller skates and dreamed of reaching the moon was driven by an almost spiritual yearning for the cosmos. This innate passion, rather than any political ideology, was his primary motivator. This is a crucial distinction, often invoked by his defenders, to separate his scientific pursuit from the repugnant aims of the Nazi regime. Yet, it also highlights the profound tragedy of his life that such a pure, exploratory spirit could be so thoroughly co-opted and weaponized. The development of the V2 at Peenemünde was a testament to his engineering prowess and his ability to push the boundaries of technology. It was here that he cultivated a leadership style that combined rigorous technical demands with an almost paternalistic care for his core team. He fostered an environment of intense dedication and innovation, often working alongside his engineers for days on end. This created an almost cult-like loyalty among his German colleagues, many of whom followed him across the Atlantic. This loyalty, however, was ironically built upon a foundation of unquestioning obedience to authority, a characteristic that mirrored the very regime they served. The moral compromises at Peenemünde extended beyond Mittelwerk. The test launches themselves were dangerous, and safety protocols were often secondary to developmental speed. Resources, including personnel, were redirected from other critical war efforts, underscoring the high priority placed on his work. Yet, for von Braun, the V2 was never truly an end in itself. He viewed it as a stepping stone, a proof of concept for the larger, more ambitious goal of manned spaceflight. This detached, instrumental view of the rocket's purpose allowed him, perhaps, to compartmentalize its destructive application. His post-war transformation in the United States was a masterclass in adaptation and strategic thinking. He not only learned English fluently, but became adept at navigating the labyrinthine politics of Washington, D.C. He understood the power of public opinion and crafted a compelling narrative for space exploration that resonated with American ideals of progress and pioneering spirit. He became a media darling, appearing on shows like Disneyland to explain rocket science to millions, captivating audiences with his enthusiasm and the sheer audacity of his vision. This public persona helped to gradually erase the lingering doubts about his past for many Americans, though never for all. The rivalry with the Soviet Union, epitomized by Sputnik, provided the perfect crucible for von Braun's re-emergence. The missile gap and the fear of Soviet technological superiority created an urgent national imperative that allowed America to set aside, if not forget, the moral complexities of hiring former Nazi scientists. Von Braun's team, with their unparalleled expertise, became indispensable. His leadership at Marshall Space Flight Center, particularly during the Apollo program, showcased his unique ability to manage immense technical challenges, while simultaneously inspiring a vast workforce towards a common, monumental goal. He was a force of nature, driven by an unshakable belief that humanity's destiny lay beyond Earth. However, the weight of history never truly lifted. Throughout his career, whispers and direct accusations about his past persisted. In the 1960s, a journalist famously confronted him about Mitterwork, and von Braun's response was a terse denial of direct knowledge of the abuses. Such encounters, though rare in public, highlight the uncomfortable shadow that perpetually followed him. He was often presented as a symbol of Cold War pragmatism, a necessary evil. Yet the ethical questions posed by his career continue to resonate in contemporary discussions about scientific ethics, the responsibility of innovators, and the complex interplay between individual genius and societal morality. Wernher von Braun retired from NASA in 1972, leaving behind a legacy that continues to spark vigorous debate. He left an indelible mark on human history, directly enabling the greatest exploratory achievement of the 20th century. His technological contributions are undeniable. The Saturn V remains a benchmark in rocket engineering. Yet, the moral cost associated with those achievements, the human suffering that undergirded his early work, cannot be ignored. His life forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. Can a scientist be truly apolitical when working under a totalitarian regime? To what extent is one responsible for the atrocities committed by the system one serves, even if one does not personally commit them? And can the magnificence of later achievements ever truly absolve the sins of the past? Wernher von Braun's story is a powerful, often disturbing, narrative of a man who pursued a singular dream with relentless determination. It's a testament to the human capacity for visionary achievement, but also a haunting reminder of the ethical tightrope walk that accompanies profound scientific and technological progress. His legacy is not a static monument but a dynamic, evolving discussion, eternally challenging us to reconcile the dazzling heights of human ingenuity with the profound depths of human fallibility. His name will forever be etched in the annals of space exploration, a beacon to the stars, yet always accompanied by the chilling echo from the dark recesses of Mitterwork.